Chapter 4. Sai Baba's first advent in Shirdi. Mission of the Saints. Shirdi, a holy tirth. Personality of Sai Baba. Dictum of Golibua. Appearance of Vital. Shir Sagara story. Daskanu's bath in Prayag. Immaculate conception of Sai Baba and his first advent in Shirdi. 3 Wadas. In the last chapter, I described the circumstances which led me to write Sri Sai Satcharitra. Let me now describe the first advent of Sai Baba in Shirdi. Mission of the Saints. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 7 and 8, that whenever there is a decay of dharma, righteousness, and a ascendancy of unrighteousness, I manifest myself for the protection of the virtuous and the destruction of the vicious, and for the establishment of righteousness I manifest myself age after age. This is the mission of the Lord and the sages and saints who are his representatives and who appear at appropriate times to work in their own way to fulfill that mission. For instance, when the twice-born, the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas neglect their duties, and when the Shudras try to usurp the duties of other classes, when spiritual preceptors are not respected but humiliated, when nobody cares for religious instruction, when everybody thinks himself very learned, when people begin to partake of forbidden foods and intoxicating drinks, when under the cloak of religion people indulge in malpractices, when people belonging to different sects fight amongst themselves, when Brahmins fail to do their Sandhya adoration, and the orthodox leave their religious practices, when yogis neglect their meditation, when people begin to think that wealth, progeny and wife are the sole concern, and thus turn away from the true path of salvation, then saints appear and try to set matters at the right path by their own words and actions. They serve us as beacon lights and show us the path and the right way for us to follow. In this way, many saints, namely Nivruti, Dhyanadev, Muktabai, Namadev, Gora, Gonai, Ekanath, Tukaram, Narahari, Narasibai, Sajan Kashai, Sawata, Ramadas, and various others did appear at various times to show the right path and to the people, and so the present advent came as Sri Sai Baba of Shirdi. Shirdi, a holy tirth, on the banks of the Godavari River in the Ahmednagar district, are very fortunate, for they gave birth and refuge to many saints, prominent amongst them being Dhyaneshwar. Shirdi also falls in the Koppagaon Taluka or the Ahmednagar district. After crossing the Godavari River at Koppagaon, one gets on the way to Shirdi. When you go 3 kos, 9 miles, you come to Nimagaon, from where Shirdi is visible. Shirdi is a famous and well known as other holy places like Gangapur, Narasimhawadi, Udambar, and on the banks of the Krishna River. As the devotee Damoji flourished and blessed Mangal Veda near Pandarpur, as Samat Ramadas at Sajangad, as Sri Narasimha Saraswati at Saraswati Wadi, so Sainath flourished and Shirdi blessed it. At Shirdi and blessed it. Personality of Sai Baba. It is on account of Sri Sai Baba that Shirdi grew into importance. Let us see what sort of personage Sai Baba was. He conquered this sansar, worldly existence, which is very hard to cross. Peace or mental calm was his ornament, and he was the repository of wisdom. He was the home of the Vaishnava devotees, most generous like Karana. Amongst all, the quintessence of all essences. He had no love for perishable things, and was always engrossed in self-realization, which was his sole concern. He felt no pleasure in the things of this world or of the world beyond. His antarang heart was as clear as a mirror, and his speech was always rain nectar. The rich or poor people were the same to him. He neither knew nor cared for honor or dishonor. He was the Lord of all beings. He spoke freely and mixed with all people, watched the actings and dances of Nautch girls, and heard ghazal songs. Still, he swerved not an inch from his samadhi, mental equilibrium. The name of Allah was always on his lips. While the world awoke, he slept, and while the world slept, he was vigilant. His abdomen, his inside, was as calm as the deep sea. His ashram could not be determined, nor his actions could be definitely determined. And though he sat and lived in one place, he knew all the transactions of the world. His dharma was imposing. He told daily hundreds of stories. Still, he swerved not an inch from his vow of silence. He always leaned against the wall in the masjid and walked morning and noon and evening towards Lendi, the Nala, and the Charity. Still, he at all times abided in the self. Though a Siddha, he acted like a Sadhaka. He was meek, humble, and egoist, and pleased all. Such was Sai Baba. And as the soil of Shirdi was trodden by Sai Baba's feet, it attained extraordinary importance. As Dhyaneshwara elevated Alandi, Ekanath did Paitan, and so Sai Baba raised Shirdi. Blessed are the grass leaves and stones of Shirdi, for they could kiss the holy feet of Sai Baba and take his dust on their head. Shirdi became to us devotees another Pandharpur, Jagannath, Dwarka, Benares, Kashi, and Rameshwar, Badrikera, Nashik, Trambakeshwar, Mahabaleshwar, Gorkhan. Contact with Sai Baba in Shirdi was like our study of Veda and Tantra. It quieted our sansar, worldly consciousness, and rendered self-realization. The darshan of Sri Sai was our yoga sadhana, and talk with him removed our sins. Shampooing his legs was our bath in Triveni Prayag, and drinking the holy water of his feet destroyed our sins. To us, his commands were Vedas, and accepting eating his udi, sacred ash, as prasad was all purifying. He was our Sri Krishna and Sri Ram, who gave us solace, and he was our Parabrahma, absolute reality. He was himself beyond, the pair of dwandas, opposites, never dejected nor elated. He was always engrossed in himself, existence, knowledge, and bliss. Shirdi was his centre, but his field of action extended far beyond to Punjab, Calcutta, North India, Gujarat, Dhaka, now Bangladesh, and Konkan. Thus the fame of Sai Baba spread far and wide, and people from all parts came to take his darshan and be blessed. By mere darshan, minds of people, whether pure or impure, would become quiet at once. They got here the same unparalleled joy that devotees get at Pandharpur by seeing Vital Rukamai. This is not an exaggeration. Consider what a devotee says in this respect. Dictum of Golibua. An old devotee named Golibua, aged about 95 years, was a Varkari of Pandari. He stayed 8 months at Pandharpur and 4 months, July to November, on the banks of the Ganges. He had an ass with him for carrying his luggage and a disciple as his companion. Every year he made his vari a trip to Pandharpur and came to Shirdi to see Sai Baba, whom he loved most. He used to stare at Baba and say, "This is Pandarinath Vital incarnate, the merciful Lord of the poor and helpless." This Golibua was an old devotee of Vitoba, and he had made many a trip to Pandari, and he testified that Sai Baba was real Pandarinath. Vital himself appeared. Sai Baba was very fond of remembering and singing God's name. He always uttered Allah Malik, God is Lord, and in his presence made others sing God's name continuously, day and night, for all 7 days of the week. This is called Nama Sapta. Once he asked Dasganu Maharaj to do the Nama Sapta. He replied that he would do it, provided that he was assured that Vital would appear at the end of the 7th day. Then Baba placed his hand on his chest, assured him that said, certainly Vital would appear, but for the devotee must be earnest and devout. The Dankapuri Thakur of Dakarnath, the Pandari of Vital, the Dwarka of Ranchod, Krishna, is here, Shirdi. One need not go far to see Dwarka. Will Vital come here from some outside place? He is here. Only when the devotee is bursting with love and devotion, Vital will manifest himself here in Shirdi. After the Sapta was over, Vital did manifest himself in the following manner. Kaka Sahib Dixit was, as usual, singing in meditation. After his bath, he saw Vital in a vision. He was sitting after his meditation, and after a bath, he saw Vital in a vision. When he went at noon for Baba's darshan, Baba asked him point blank, "Did Vital Patel come? Did you see him? He is a very truant fellow. Catch him firmly, otherwise he will escape, even if you are a little inattentive." This happened in the morning, and at noon there was another Vital darshan. One hawker came there for selling 25 or 30 pictures of Vitoba. These pictures exactly tallied with the figure that appeared in Kaka Sahib's vision. On seeing this and remembering Baba's words, Kaka Sahib Dixit was much surprised and delighted. He brought one picture of Vitoba and placed it in his shrine for worship. Bhagavantarao Kshirsagara story. How fond was Baba for Vital worship was illustrated in Bhagavantarao Kshirsagara story. The father of Bhagavantarao was a devotee of Vitoba and used to make varis, annual trips to Pandharpur. He also had an image of Vitoba at home, which he worshipped. After his death, the son stopped everything, the vari, the worship, the Shraddha ceremony, everything. When Bhagavantarao came to Shirdi, Baba, on remembering his father, at once said, "His father was my friend, so I dragged him, the son, here. He never offered Naividya, offering of food, and so he starved Vital and me. So I brought him here. I shall remonstrate him now and set him to worship." Dasganu's bath in Prayag. The Hindus think that a bath in the holy Tirth of Prayag, where the Ganga and Yamuna meet, is very meritorious, and thousands of pilgrims go there at periodical times to have the sacred bath there. Once Dasganu thought that he should go to Prayag for a bath and came to Baba to get his permission for doing so. Baba replied to him, "It is not necessary to go so far. Our Prayag is here, believe me." Then, wonder of wonders, when Dasganu placed his head on Baba's feet outflowed streams of Ganga and Yamuna water from both the toes of Baba. Seeing this miracle, Dasganu was overwhelmed with feelings of love and adoration, and was full of tears. Inwardly he felt inspired, and his speech burst forth into a song in praise of Baba and his Leelas. The Immaculate Conception of Sai Baba and his first advent in Shirdi. Nobody knew the parents' birth or birthplace of Sai Baba. Many inquiries were made. Many questions were put to Baba and others regarding these items, but no satisfactory answers or information has yet been obtained. Practically, we know nothing about these matters. Namadev and Kabir were not born like ordinary mortals. They were found as infants in mother of pearls, Namadev being found on the bank of the Bhimarati river by Gwanai, and Kabir on the bank of the Bhagirathi river by Tamal. Similar was the case with Sai Baba. He first manifested himself as a young lad of 16 years under the neem tree in Shirdi for the sake of the Bhaktas. Even then, he seemed to be full with the knowledge of Brahma. He had no desire for worldly objects even in dream. He kicked out Maya, and Mukti, deliverance, was serving at his feet. One old woman of Shirdi, the mother of Narachopta, described him thus: "This young lad, fair, smart, and very handsome, was first seen under the neem tree seated in an asan. The people of the village were wonderstruck to see such a young lad practicing hard penance, not minding the heat and cold. By day he associated with none, by night he was afraid of nobody. People were wondering and asking whence this young chap had turned up. His form and features were so beautiful that a mere look endeared him to all. He went to nobody's door, always sat near the neem tree. Outwardly he looked very young, but by his action he was really a great soul. He was the embodiment of dispassion and was an enigma to all. One day it so happened that God Kandoba possessed the body of some devotee, and people began to ask him, 'O Deva, you please inquire what blessed father's son this lad is, and whence did he come from?' God Kandoba asked them to bring a pickaxe and dig in a particular place. When it was dug, bricks were found underneath a flat stone. When the stone was removed, a corridor was seen in which 4 samais lights were burning. The corridor led to a cellar where cow-mouth-shaped structures, wooden boards, rosaries were seen. Kandoba said, 'This lad practiced penance here for 12 years. Then the people began to question the lad about this. He put them off the scene by telling them that it was his guru's place, his holy watan, and requested them to guard this well. The people then closed the corridor as before. As the Ashwatha and Odamba trees are held sacred, Baba regarded this neem tree equally sacred and loved it most. Mahalsapati and other Shirdi devotees regard this site as the resting place, the Samadhi Stan of Baba's Guru, and prostrate before it. The 3 waters. 1. The site where the neem tree and the surrounding space was bought by Mr. Hari Vinayak Satte, and on this side the building style Satte's Wada was erected. This Wada was the sole resting place for pilgrims who flocked there. A platform was built around the neem tree, and lofts of the steps were constructed under the steps. There is a niche facing south, and the devotees sit on the platform facing north. It is believed that he who burns incense there on Thursday and Friday evenings will by God's grace be happy. This Wada was old and dilapidated and needed repairs. The necessary repairs, additions and alterations have been made now by the Sansthan. 2. Then, after some years, another Wada, Dixit's Wada, was constructed. Kaka Sahib Dixit, a solicitor of Mumbai, had gone to England. He had injured his leg in an accident there. The injury could not be got rid of by any means. Nana Sahib Chandorkar advised him to see Sai Baba. So he went to Sai Baba in 1909 and requested him to cure the lameness of his mind rather than that of his leg. He was so much pleased with the darshan of Sai Baba that he decided to reside in Shirdi. So he built a wada for himself and other devotees. The foundation of this building was laid on the 10th of the 12th, 1910. On this day, 2 other important events took place. 1. Mr. Dada Sahib Kaparade was given permission to return home, and 2. The night arati at the charity was started. The wada was completed and was inhabited on Sri Ram Navami Day in 1911 with due rites and formalities. Number 3. Then another wada or palatial mansion was put up by the famous millionaire Mr. Bhuti of Nagpur. Lots of money was spent on this building, but all the amount was well utilized, as Sai Baba's body is resting in this wada, which is now called the Samadhi Mandir. The site of this mandir formerly had a garden which was watered and looked after by Baba. 3 wadas thus came up, where there was none formerly. Of these, Satte's Wada was most useful to all in the early days. The story of the garden, which was attended by Sai Baba, with the help of Aman Tatta, the temporary absence of Sai Baba from Shirdi, and his coming again to Shirdi with the marriage party of Chand Patil, the company of Devidas, Janaki Das, and Ganga Gir, Baba's wrestling match, the company of Devidas, his wrestling match with Mohidin Tamboli, the residing in the masjid, love for Mr. Dengale, and other devotees, and other incidents will be described in the next chapter. Bow to Sri Sai, peace be to all. Sri Satchitananda Sadguru Sainath Maharaj Ki Jai.